What's going on, guys? So I had to figure out the title for the last video of the channeling I just did like 20 minutes ago, or like 30 minutes ago. But I was watching it, and like I put in the description, I know the audio was kind of choppy. I'm not used to this new microphone. It's very, very powerful. So I have it away from me right now, and like more like I distance myself from it, and I turned it down a little bit. And one thing that might have made it choppy was I thought that this was like too low, so I got some books and I actually put the microphone on some books to make it taller. And I think it's supposed to not be that close to me, so I apologize for that. But yeah, I just want to apologize. I know the audio was a little choppy, so it's not like you can go back and redo a channeling. So I was like, whatever. I might as well just put it out there, So I know for the future to keep this, like distance myself from the microphone, and just try to keep this far away because this thing like picks up like a lot, compared to the other one that I used to have. But anyways, so I shouldn't have read the whole book 2 today from the raw material because when you read 150, like 140, 150 pages of information, you tend to lose a lot of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read book 3 tomorrow. Not obviously not all of it. I'm probably going to read, maybe like 40, 50 pages, something like that. And then I might brush up on book 2 and then make a video on that. But what book 2 mainly talked about was going going through the densities. One thing that's really, really cool is they talked about higher selves. So if you guys want to know about the density support, and again, and like I want to put out there kind of like a disclaimer, this is just a book. This is a perception. Again, I'm not going to use this and say like, oh, this information is 100% true, blah blah blah. Again, in the astral, I was told to get this book by this collective, so that's why Spirit is driving me to do it. So just saying that. But they're saying that higher selves are of 6th density, which is very interesting. So they're talking about how basically you can go from like the 1st density and then you can go like all the way up, and then the octave or like the 8th density or whatever is like the highest, I guess. And like most beings have only gotten to the 7th density or something like that. But basically they're saying that higher selves are 6th density beings. And this is, not just humans. This is everybody. Everybody's higher self is on the 6th density. So that's really cool. So, it's like if that's true and you want to be like, oh, well, I'm not a multi-dimensional being, well, that's proof right there. It's like you're already right now, you're living on the 3rd dimension, and then, you're living on the 6th dimension. So already that kind of is just funny to point out. And then they kind of talked about how like the universe was created. They went a little bit into like describing the whole, there was blackness and then chaos or whatever. But they're saying, and this is really interesting, they were saying that the levels as you go with the density and evolution and kind of just the steps you take are in a color and order, like an order basically. There's a certain order, and each step has a color. And as I started reading it, I started realizing that the way within the universe works within the dimensions, because that's what book 2 talks about, mainly the dimensions. It's really funny. The color order, and even though we have more than 7 chakras, we have like the main 7 chakras, whatever. It's really funny because like they don't count the 8th. They count the 8th as kind of like almost at like the infinite creator standpoint. So they mainly talk about the 7 because that's really all they know about. But it's funny how there's supposedly 7 main chakras. And if you go from your 1st chakras to your 7th chakra, there's like the red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, purple, white light, all that kind of stuff. So basically the universe goes in that order as well. So it's really cool because, with spiritual stuff, you get taught that, like, the universe is inside you. You kind of are the universe. Um, Literally, I mean, I know it's called the law of one, but, like, we're all one. Everything's inside you. All your guides are you in a different aspect. Everything is God experiencing itself. But it's really funny how it's like, we have these energy chakras and everything is energy. So the way the energetic system or whatever the universe works is in the same accordance and colors as us, in the same order. So then they go into the densities. So you can count, like, the third density is yellow, I guess. And they say the fourth density, is the green, which obviously is the heart chakra. And they say the fourth density is basically learning compassion and love. And then the fifth density they talk about basically is just wisdom. So it's like they already have this love, but they know that they can still excel and there's still a higher potential if they integrate wisdom. So they say if you have wisdom and compassion and, like, unconditional love, like, that really is the key to everything. So that's very interesting. And then I know one of my subscribers was asking about the whole harvest, because I was saying harvest, like, they kind of use it like kind of like the word ascension. So I went back and looked, and basically there's a 25,000, and I don't know if I talked about this, I might have, but there's a 25,000 years cycle. And then after this cycle, it's almost like when you look at plants and vegetation, like, it's ready to pick or whatever, what I'm talking about. Like, it's done growing and it's ready to move on. So they're talking about how basically it's in 25,000 year cycles, and there's 3 cycles. So over 75,000 years, but we haven't been, like, ready to ascend how we were supposed to be. And it's taking more time. And with the Orion influence, with the service to self, the polarities of going to the negativity, which is very interesting because they say that, negative beings go to the higher dimensions. So it's really weird how, like, it's not, like how duality, the black and white, doesn't really exist. I'm not saying right and wrong doesn't exist, because it does, but it's interesting how it's like, you have to have a negative life sometimes here, just to add on for everyone to ascend. So it's really interesting. So it really shows how humanity has to understand that we really are, like, our own collective in a way, and we really are one. Because we all have to ascend together. It's not like, some of us are, some of us aren't. I mean, that still could be the case, but from what this book is saying is no. And it's saying that's why it's taken so long. It's like we have to keep reincarnating here until the energy is ready for all of us to ascend. So that makes me question about how a lot of beings, a lot of people talk about how some of us are going to go to the 4D, some are going to stay here on the 3D. Because this is kind of saying, no, like, we all as one have to do this. So that's why it's taking so long. So that's very interesting. And then also they were talking about Hitler, which I was like, huh. And they're saying that Hitler had, like, this great potential, but he drove himself crazy with, like, power. And so he went completely with the polarity to the negative, to the service to self side. And who knows what's going on to this day, with him. But those are a couple things. My voice is absolutely killing me, so I'm going to cut this early. But I'm going to try to be back tomorrow. We'll see if I'm feeling better. Sounds good. I'm going to read book 3. So book 1 was talking about the harvest, talking about humanity and a lot of stuff like that. Book 2 was talking about the dimensions, going into the dimensions. So I wonder, I haven't even read, because on the back it says what it's about. So okay, so it's going to be about balancing of the energy centers or chakras, sexual energy transfers, healing, reincarnation, meditation, and wanderers. The nature of psychic prophecy is explored in book 3. Talks about psychic attacks, so that's really important. That's something I can talk about. That's really cool. Ritual magic, so that's interesting. White magic. Yeah, and then just talking about the mind of the Logos and everything, and so the Logos, I'm sure a lot of you guys know about, so I won't really get into the Logos. Book two talked about a lot of like the sub Logos, like our sun is a sub Logos, I guess. But even though there are the dimensions, you gotta mix like the infinite with the non-infinite, if that makes sense, because what they say is it's kind of like there's like the 7 or 8 dimensions, but then there's like infinite subdimensions, and it infinitely is always continuing. So it's kind of a little, you got to take a step back and really reflect on this stuff for like more than just a day, like for a while. So, but I plan on researching this stuff for a while, and I'm sure that it's gonna have a positive impact. I've seen that a lot of people have been talking about it. Like I said in a past video, I'm talking about it. I saw a couple big YouTubers talking about it. I saw someone channeling this stuff, or channeling Ra. So, that's really cool that we're all kind of working together. So that's awesome. Kind of as a synchronicity in itself that, spirit is working. We're all working together. So something interesting. But my voice is effed. So I'm going to go. So, all right, guys, take care. See you in another one. Peace.